Hey, good morning, class. You have any doubts? We started with money. Which one? Expansionary fiscal policy तो उल्टा होगा. Fiscal policy is what? Contractionary fiscal policy होगा. Expansionary I was telling you for growth. Fiscal policy is the taxation and the expenditure policy of the government, right? So in what case will we control inflation? This is your aggregate. This is increase in aggregate demand. This has to be brought back. Then only inflation will be controlled, right? So when will you do? How will you do this? When expenditure is reduced or taxes are, this is contractionary fiscal policy. Expansionary is what? Expenditure increases and taxes decrease. This is expansionary fiscal policy. Stimulus, when we are saying intensive expansionary, more or both. Is it clear? This is to push growth. Because if we are in this end of the cycle, so who is going to push growth? The government is going to either increase the expenditure or reduce the taxes so as to push the economic activity up. Any other doubts? Basis points is percentage. So if it is 150 basis points, it means 1.5. This is basis points. Because sometimes we write basis points, we don't give कि वो percentage किसका है. So this is what it's written as 150 base points, that is 1.5. Retail inflation which the consumers face. आपका production cycle का, the producer produces it, the next stage in the supply chain is wholesaler, retailer and consumer. Retail, this is the point of sale, retail. So consumer जो face करेगा वो retail inflation है. Producer, we don't have an index. This is why we see another index, that is wholesale. Though we should have a producer price index. India is still developing this. Till then we have WPI. Consumer is here. And since we are constructing indices, remember how we construct indices? We make a basket and weights are assigned. Weights are assigned based on how much the expenditure is happening on that. Similarly, weights are assigned based on how much production of that happens. जिसका जितना significance है. And how do we know significance? जितना production हो रहा है, जितना consumer is spending money on. This will give us the weights. We have a base year and we find the percentage inflation. This is what is happening here. And this CPI could be different areas, different people. I can construct different CPIs. We have CPI, rural, CPI, urban, also CPI, agricultural labor, industrial workers, and so on. I can construct any number of indices. And one of the purpose is to measure the inflation so that I can do indexation. What is indexation? What is indexation? So wages have to be increased on the basis of inflation. Therefore, these need to be indexed to some of these indices. So indexation is adjusting for inflation. So different labor I can index with different indices. This is the idea of indexation. Indexation benefits is, whenever we talk about indexation in general, indexation benefits are adjusting it to inflation. That means you have to link it to certain particular index of inflation. And one more inflation index is, how is deflator different from these two? Shorter. It doesn't account for. What is the idea of the GDP deflator? See, there is no basket we are creating here. This is GDP deflator. Have we created any basket? It's the complete GDP, whatever we are producing, it measures the price level across two different time periods. This is the idea of deflator. It's not measuring through a basket or any weights. Are there any weights assigned? What would be the weights of the products here? हाउ मच वेट्स विल नॉट बी कांस्टेंट हियर, यहाँ वेट हमने कांस्टेंट कर दिए हैं, यहाँ वेट कांस्टेंट नहीं होंगे, हर साल जो भी प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है उसका वेट अपने आप चेंज होता जाएगा, बिकॉज इट इज क्वांटिटी इनटू price. So whatever quantity is produced, the weights will keep on changing. Is it clear how GDP deflator? It's not a good measure, or it's more comprehensive as compared to these two, but not a good measure to check the consumer inflation, because it includes all the goods even when they're not consumed by the consumers. Also, it doesn't include imports. It only includes the goods and services produced in the domestic territory. Remember GDP concept? It's a territorial concept. Is this clear? The measures of inflation. A lot of things are being covered on inflation right now. The government has started selling onions also. This is one of your administrative measure to control inflation. Essential Commodities Act में they can impose a hoarding limit and then they can sell on its own. This is how to control supply side, because we discussed how both the monetary policy and fiscal policy work on the demand side. It's difficult to control the supply side. This is why administrative measures are used to control the supply side inflation. Now we started with the concept of money. How the money has evolved, is that clear? We started with yes, it is expansionary fiscal policy. When it is an intensive, that becomes a fiscal stimulus. Stimulus intensive, expenditure भी will increase too much and taxes also will reduce too much. Now money, we started with barter economy. What are the problems with barter economy? And keep on revising all these things. We are going to have a test very soon in the class. When that will happen, that I am not telling you, वो surprise होगा. But there will be a test someday in the class. Any day it can happen now, because now we'll complete these prelims wala concept. Any day it can happen. So keep on revising. And those who score good, the top 3 are going to get prizes. Club entry. Stags की club entry. Club you decide. And it's not a club entry, सही में मान लो. But definitely there would be something. So keep on revising. What is the problem with barter economy? First, double coincidence of wants. Both the person may not want the same thing again, same at the same time. What else? One of the problems is you can't store value, because perishability of the produce, whatever, you cannot store everything for later use. What else? Problem of divisibility. Bigger goods, how will you divide? Anything else? The biggest problem is that you need to have exchange rates. How do you measure value? Unit of accounting क्या होगा? Now out of this system, we have understood that the functions of money are clear. What exactly are the functions of money? इसी पे we can decide what form of money we choose, whether it is working well or not. So the first function of money is that it should be a medium of exchange, that it should allow exchange. This is why we are studying about money, because production activities happen. Now you have to exchange and distribute. Then what else? Uniform value. How? So it would be store of value. And how can someone act as or some unit can act as a store of value? Non-perishable, okay. Store of value तभी काम आएगा जब उसका value is not deteriorating over a period of time. It can only work as a store of value if its value is not deteriorating over a period of time. See, this is the major concept why the present paper money is being disregarded in form of, and there are cryptocurrencies coming in. यही major reason है, because money in the paper form, is it an exact store of value, or the value of the money decreases? If the inflation is too much, central bank prints too much money, will the value decrease? So it is also, the fiat currency in the present form is also not a very good store of value, because the moment inflation happens because of any reasons, the value is being reduced. Remember, 100 rupees cannot buy the same things. So the money value is reducing, and it can reduce also because of the actions of central bank. When the central bank increases the, you discussed how quantity theory of money, if money supply increases, you can have inflation, and if you have inflation, the value will decrease. This is where cryptocurrencies came into the picture. So one is exchange, the other is store of value. And what else? And since it is a store of value, you can also store it for deferred payments when you want to pay later, which will be difficult to do in a barter economy. And what else is the function of money? Divisible, okay. Exchange है, divisible है. It's helping me. It's a unit of money के form में. Money can be used to measure the value of rest of the other commodities in money form. So this is easy. I don't have to remember a lot of exchange ratios. I can know the money form, what exactly money, the value is in terms of money. So measurement of value, store of value, and also exchange. These are the three primary functions of money in any economy. Then we discussed how various forms were brought in. The first, independent. We are moving from barter to an independent money. First, we introduced various types of commodities and money. Different areas had different commodities which they regarded as money. What is the problem with the commodity money? सबसे पहले commodity rice, wheat, shells, animal teeth, animals itself, a lot of different commodities were regarded as money. So one problem with those things could be storage. What if they are perishable? What if they get destroyed? What else? Availability. Bigger, you have a problem of divisibility. What else? What's the biggest problem with commodity money? Carry, yes, it's inconvenient to carry and transact. Medium of exchange भी मुश्किल होगा. Inconvenient to carry and transact. Measure of value तो independent unit है, क्यों नहीं हो सकता? You measure everything in what rice is. Independent unit में तो you don't need to measure in different exchange values. What is the problem? What is the biggest problem with this? The biggest problem is that you don't have control over money supply and money demand. You don't have any control over money supply. And we have discussed how if this money supply increases too much or decreases too much, you have an impact on prices. You need to have certain constant money supply or certain predictability of money supply. Then only you are going to control prices. If all of a sudden rice, there's a drought and there's a shortage of rice, that means money supply is scarce. The prices will reduce. Money supply कम है, prices reduce होंगे. Money supply is too much, then the prices rises without output changing. So you don't have control over supply, and also it cannot allow exchange across areas because हर area में हर अलग commodity money है. Biggest problem is you don't have control over money supply and money demand. To counter these problems, we had introduced coins. We first started introducing full-bodied coins. Full-bodied coins are those whose face value is equal to intrinsic value. They try to solve all these problems. Easy to store, easy to divide, and also convenient. What is the problem with coins? Scarcity से scarce है, इसलिए आपने money supply control कर लिया. This is why gold. This is scarce. You cannot increase the supply of gold whenever you want. That means the money supply is constant, would be highly stable. This is the benefit of gold, because remember I told you gold has no other use. Gold has no other use. That means इसका industrial uses में इसका supply demand will not vary. Gold is only used here, no use. That means its supply will be constant and prices will remain constant. This is why gold has value. Gold has value because value is stable across time. So if a lot of people start accepting it, this will become important. And what's the problem with gold or these coins? Difficult to carry. Okay. Bigger transactions, it's difficult to carry coins. What's the problem with coins? Why did we move from coins to paper currency? Now if your population is increasing, you have to increase the expenditure in the economy. Will the demand for money increase? For example, first kingdoms itself, they started debasing the coins. Debasement of coins is when you move from full body to token, where your face value is much more than your intrinsic value. This, when you reduce the intrinsic value from a full bodied coin, this is called as debasement of coins. उसकी value कम कर रहे हैं. We are taking out the gold from the coin so that with the same quantity of gold we can make more coins. Remember how this is helpful? With the same value of gold, if you are making 10 grams and you are making it 100 rupees ka coin, but the quantity is limited and now population is increasing, expenditure is increasing, demand for money is more. Not only that, specialization in the economy. स्पेशलाइजेशन तभी हो पाएगी जब ज़्यादा मनी है. If you have too many of different products being produced in your economy, that means the demand for money is quite high. This will have to be matched by the supply. How do you match the supply? First, we started moving away from full body to token. Same quantity say we are making now 2 coins worth rupees 100. That means उस 100 rupees के coin में the gold value has been reduced. So one way of making more coins will be with the same quantity of weight I am making more. That means the value of one coin with respect to quantity of gold has reduced. This is called as debasement. First we debase, then also the currency, this is requirement is more, then we move to a paper currency. Because of the more need for money, therefore the supply had to be more. Monetized sections of the economy are increasing. That means more need for money. Now when we have paper currency, first it was a complete replica of the coin system. A representative system meant that whatever paper currency you have, it is backed by some asset or backed by gold. This was the gold standard also, where dollar was linked to gold and rest of the currencies were linked to dollar. So your currency is representative of certain value that it is backed by gold. But this system also has limitation because your gold is limited. Therefore, we move to proportional representation first. That don't keep 100% gold, but keep some percentage gold as backing of your currency. But India does not follow a full representation or a proportional representation. India follows a minimum. That's a minimum we'll keep. Beyond that, you can print any amount of currency in exchange of government security. And what is the minimum reserve India has? 200 crores का reserve है, जिसमें से 115 crore is rest is foreign securities which are acceptable. That means on the back of 200 crores, I can print any amount of currency. The government will give them government securities. In exchange, they are going to print any amount of currency which they want. It's only a minimum reserve. Now the question here is, if it is a minimum reserve, that means it is not backed by any value, even not a percentage value. I can print any amount of currency, lakh crores में, on just the back of 200. तो percentage भी value मेरी covered नहीं है. Then why do people accept this currency? From where does the trust come? See, all of the currency, the whole money system works on trust. Commodity became money because everybody started accepting it. Gold became money because everybody started accepting it. Why did people accept more gold as compared to other metals? Because gold ka value was stable. Other metals, because it has other uses also, that meant uska value was not stable. So if there was a recession in the economy, the prices of silver could have gone up or gone down, which would have impacted what value of silver you were holding. Gold का कोई use नहीं है, उसका value stable है. This is why it gave trust to the people. So at the end of the day, it's all about trust. So why is this paper currency enjoying this trust? Because it is a government order. The government has ordered it that you will have to accept it currency, and this is why it has become a legal tender. That means you cannot refuse it for any debt settlement or any transaction settlement. See, one thing about legal tender is, for example, the government of India has certain rules that above 2 lakh rupees you cannot pay in cash. This is for income tax purposes to protect against black money. Otherwise, it is a legal tender. And legal tender, the definition of legal tender is that you can't refuse legal tender in settlement of debts. If you have taken a debt from someone, legal tender if someone is paying, you can't refuse the debts. This is the technical definition. But transactions may definitely Income Tax Act can impose certain things on cash that you can't use it because we want to collect those taxes. We want to prevent the circulation of black money. Accounting के लिए हमने cash की transactions रोकी हैं, इसका ये मतलब नहीं है, it's not a legal tender. Is it clear? Fiat currency and legal tender. And legal tender, it can be limited and unlimited. What's a limited legal tender? Why? What is the concept of limited? That up to certain level only you can use these coins. Beyond that, the person can refuse in settlement of any debt. Anyone will refuse. The settlement of debt up to 1, everyone will refuse. Limited hai. And they can refuse it by law. So maximum you can accept in coins up to rupees 1000 and 50 paisa up to rupees 10. Paper currency is unlimited tender. Now this is the concept of paper currency throughout the world which is followed. Minimum reserve, you can print any amount of currency because the demand for money is quite high because of the specialization and the growth of the economy. Is this clear how the currency has value and everything? Now the next end here is cryptocurrency. Now why did cryptocurrency, or first, Bitcoin has a lot of significance here, not other currencies, as because other currencies have different features. This currency, why did this come into? What was the reason for the invention of Bitcoin? नहीं क्यों? No third party. See, the biggest problem, function of money is what? The function of money. What are the three functions of money? That it should allow you to exchange, it should be divisible, and it should allow you to exchange. Then store of value, and it can also be a measure of value. Now if you compare Bitcoin on all three functions, is Bitcoin performing all three functions? It can be used as a medium of exchange, it is divisible also, it's easy to use. It also can be act as a measure of value, independent unit hai, you can measure any product value in terms of how much Bitcoins it is. What's the problem? The biggest point about Bitcoins and why they are different from other cryptocurrency is that Bitcoins are limited. This is why it is also called as digital gold. Limited hai, that means nobody has a control to increase the amount whenever they want. See, the biggest problem with paper currency is people don't trust the paper currency, and this is what the proponents of Bitcoin are saying. People will not have trust in paper currency. Why? Because inflation has eroded the value of this paper currency. Central banks and governments world over have not been able to control inflation, which has reduced the value of the paper currency, because the control here is with the control of the paper currency is with the central bank. This is what they say, that centralized control has eroded the value of money over time. We want a decentralized system where the Bitcoin will be limited in number. See, this is how Bitcoin is different from other cryptocurrencies, because a lot of other cryptocurrencies were introduced. A lot of them were not limited in number. So you, first of all, you have to create something which is scarce. If you can create it any time, that means you have the same problem of paper currency. That means this is a decentralized system, nobody controls. It was formed on a technology called blockchain, where it's a decentralized ledger system, where if not everyone agrees, you cannot have any change in the database. So it's a decentralized system, centralized control nahi hai. Then why Bitcoin is not stable? So this depends on the government whether to give it legal tender or not. In India, no cryptocurrency has a legal tender. No cryptocurrency in India is legal tender. Government of India has refused. Government of India is introducing its own central bank backed digital currency. ये central bank digital currency है, that means it's centralized, central bank के control में होगी. The only thing about this changes from paper economy is that it is a digital currency, you don't require paper. Digital hai only, it is paper, rest of the features are the same. And I can introduce a lot of features in this currency. It depends on what the central bank wants. So this is a legal tender. Then what exactly is the problem? Why are people not accepting Bitcoin? Fluctuations. Why fluctuations? The biggest problem of Bitcoin is this. Since it is decentralized, nobody controls it. It will only have any value if people have trust or confidence in this. The moment trust increases, the value increases. The moment trust falls, the value falls. The biggest problem with the decentralized system is how do you stabilize its value? A lot of people should have a trust. In paper currency, people have trust because it has the backing of the government. Why are people trusting Bitcoin? It has no value. Backing nahi hai kuch bhi piche. Why are people trusting it? This is the biggest question. If too many people trust it, its value will be stable. If people are not trusting it, its value will change. The value of Bitcoin is changing because of the trust it enjoys in the population. Wherever there is trust, their value might stabilize. And if this trust has to remain constant, ये बढ़ कम नहीं हो सकता है. The moment trust will increase or trust will reduce, the value will destabilize. And if value destabilizes, nobody will be ready to accept it as a store of value. You don't know whatever Bitcoin you are holding is of what value. because it's completely dependent on what is its market supply and demand. Supply हमने फिर भी control कर रखी है because you can't mine bitcoins all at a time, and bitcoins also are limited how many you can mine. That means the money supply is constant, but the problem is the demand is highly fluctuating. Demand is not related to economic activities. The demand is highly fluctuating because demand is based on trust. And a lot of people were not using it for a medium of exchange. They started using this unit for speculation. Currencies में भी speculation होता है. You paper currency में also dollar, rupee, all of the currencies face speculative pressures. But this was mainly done for speculation. It was not used mainly as a exchange medium. So जब demand उसकी fluctuating थी because people did not have trust, there were a lot of speculative pressures on this currency. That meant that this currency's value was not stable. If the value is not stable, this becomes a very big problem, that how do you store value? This creates another problem. If you can't store value, you again have fluctuating trust. Fluctuating trust means again your value is not stable. So this becomes a loop. उसका फीचर यही था कि कोई कंट्रोल नहीं करेगा. कोई कंट्रोल नहीं करेगा, क्या सब लोग एक्सेप्ट करेंगे कि नहीं करेंगे? It depends if people accepting it. Consider if this class has no currency and you start dealing in pens. One half of the class says we don't accept it. ये तो सिर्फ ट्रस्ट के ऊपर है, if they accept it or not. Informal systems में you can have paper currencies or any type of currencies. For example, in jails, cigarette is the currency. Cigarettes, because everybody accepts it, तो वो ट्रस्ट बन जाता है, तो उसका सप्लाई इज लिमिटेड. यू कैन नॉट स्टार्ट रोलिंग स्टफ इन द जेल, तो वो नहीं हो सकता है. प्लस डिमांड, बिकॉज एवरीबडी इज एक्सेप्टिंग, इट कैन बी यूज्ड. एट द एंड ऑफ द डे ऑल ऑफ दीज करेंसीज इट्स ऑल बेस्ड ऑन ट्रस्ट. कमोडिटी में राइस पे क्यों ट्रस्ट आया लोगों को? एवरीबडी स्टार्टेड एक्सेप्टिंग इट. कॉइन्स में व्हाई डिड दे हैव ट्रस्ट? कॉइन्स में डेफिनेटली ट्रस्ट इसलिए भी बना बिकॉज कॉइन्स में इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू थी. You have to give something so that people can trust it. Then only people will start using it for these three purposes. So the whole idea of any currency is trust. If most of the people start accepting it, then it enjoys the trust, its value will stabilize. The present system, the problem is this. Rest of the cryptocurrencies, it was all money laundering schemes. क्योंकि ये तीन function important है. Bitcoin was the closest to achieve this because Bitcoin का supply was limited. This is why it was called as डिजिटल गोल्ड, लिक्विड गोल्ड, अ लॉट ऑफ टर्म्स वर गिवन टू बिटकॉइन कि इसका सप्लाई लिमिटेड है. करेंसी का सप्लाई आपका लिमिटेड ही होना चाहिए. इफ यू कैन क्रिएट टू मच, यू स्टिल हैव द प्रॉब्लम. पेपर के साथ यही तो प्रॉब्लम है, दैट यू कैन क्रिएट एनी टाइम टू मच, एंड द मोमेंट यू क्रिएट टू मच, इट्स वैल्यू ऑल्सो इरोड्स. इस सिस्टम के अगेंस्ट ही तो यहाँ पे वी स्टार्टेड डूइंग बिटकॉइंस. Is this clear, the concept of cryptocurrencies? You just have to observe any currency on these three functions. मनी के हमेशा ये तीन फंक्शंस हैं इकोनॉमी में. इट हैज टू एक्ट एज अ मीडियम ऑफ एक्सचेंज, इट हैज टू बी अ स्टोर ऑफ वैल्यू एंड मेजर ऑफ वैल्यू. स्टोर ऑफ वैल्यू इज इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ पेमेंट्स हैपन, डेफर्ड पेमेंट्स, यू पेड लेटर. सो अगर वो वैल्यू ही चेंज हो रही है लेटर, देन इट इज नॉट अ स्टेबल करेंसी. The government and the RBI, this is why we'll discuss how objective of the RBI or of the objective of the monetary policy is to control inflation. कि मनी की वैल्यू इरोड नहीं करनी है, उनको स्टेबलाइज करना है. यहीं से लेजिटिमेसी है. If they print money whenever they want, this is a failed state. Hyperinflation होती ही ऐसी है. Zimbabwe and a lot of countries have seen hyperinflation. When you start printing too much money just for your purposes, your credibility, trust will be lost. The currency will have no value. Then you'll have to replace your currency with some other currency because people will lose trust. At the end of the day, any currency right now has value because of the trust the people have in it. Because पेपर करेंसी का कोई इंट्रेंसिक वैल्यू नहीं है, बिटकॉइन कोई इंट्रेंसिक वैल्यू नहीं है, कॉइन्स का स्टिल यू कुड मेल्ट एंड गेट द इक्वल वैल्यू ऑफ गोल्ड. राइट नाउ when the RBI is printing on the paper currency, have you seen, I promise to pay the bearer? What does that promise mean? I promise to pay the bearer a sum of 10 rupees. That means if you have a 10 rupees note, you go to the RBI, what will the RBI give you? What will the RBI give you? So what is the promise? It's not backed by anything. So what is the RBI giving you? It is not backed by anything. So you are only going to get a separate note apart from that note. तो वो नोट ही है, उसको जो वापस आपको मिलेगा, आपको कोई वैल्यू नहीं मिलेगी. वी डू नॉट हैव अ फुल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव सिस्टम वेयर इट इज बैक्ड बाय सम मेटल और बैक्ड बाय सम अदर वैल्यू. कि आप 10 रुपए लेके गए, 10 रुपए का कुछ और वैल्यू उन्होंने आपको दे दिया. be it in gold or whatever value they are giving you. This is not going to happen. This is only representative. There's minimum reserve. We don't have any value with us. 10 rupees अगर फटा हुआ नोट ला रहे हो तो नया नोट ले जाओ, वो भी आरबीआई नहीं देगा. But this is what it means. I promise to pay the bearer a sum of 10 rupees. Is it clear what is the idea of currency and why the system has evolved and why cryptocurrency has come into the picture? Functions of money, write down. नहीं, क्वालिटी नंबर के ऊपर है ना, कि एक ये 4 राइस के दाने दिस इज इक्वल टू समथिंग, तो वो तो इजी है. काओ 1 काओ इज इक्वल टू दिस मच दिस. डिविजिबिलिटी का प्रॉब्लम है अगर बड़ी कमोडिटी है. छोटी कमोडिटी का प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. छोटी कमोडिटी का प्रॉब्लम इज पेरिशेबिलिटी, whether you are able to store it for a long period of time or not. No, it will not have a pressure on resource का मतलब ही नहीं है. बात यह है कि फिर आपके प्राइसेस वेरी हो जाएंगे ना. MV is equal to PY, I told you right. मनी सप्लाई इंक्रीज कर दो और अगर आउटपुट कांस्टेंट है, प्राइसेस बढ़ जाएंगे ना. मोर मनी इज चेजिंग फ्यूअर गुड्स. दैट मीन्स वैल्यू ऑफ द मनी इज फॉलिंग. दिस इज अ प्रॉब्लम. एंड इसमें और भी प्रॉब्लम आएंगे. इफ यू प्रिंट टू मच ऑफ मनी और इफ यू हैव टू मच ऑफ इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर लो, पीपल माइट नॉट स्पेंड ऑल्सो. People will store money. I'll show you today how liquidity trap बनता है. If I know the value of the money is falling, why will I spend money? I will not invest money in any of the purposes because I know value of the asset is going to fall in future. अगर future में उसका inflation ही होना है तो उसकी value fall होनी है. तो falling value asset पे कोई क्यों invest करेगा? This becomes a problem. This is what a liquidity trap is. We'll discuss today. Head on functions of money first. First, medium of exchange. An independent unit that is money facilitates the exchange of goods and services in an economy. Second, unit of account. Money serves as a yardstick. To measure values of all other goods. And services in terms of their money price. Next, store of value. Money can act as a standard of deferred payments. As it can be spent in future without much loss of value. Is this clear? What exactly are the functions of money? Now there are certain instruments which is not money exactly, but are claims on money. There are certain instruments which are not money. Money was your paper currency. There are certain instruments which are closer to money, but are not money exactly. Why we are saying closer to money? Because it is a claim on any. It's a claim on money. That's bank credit. Bank creates drafts and all. This near money, the example is a government security. Government security is not money, but it is a claim on money. And why we are calling it near money, the whole idea of near money is that this claim on money, you can get this money, it's a liquid source, means it can be converted into cash without much loss of time or value. Any asset that can be converted into cash easily without loss of time or value is called as a liquid asset. For example, a government security, it's near money because it can be converted into money without much of loss of value in time or value. For example, you have land. Is land a liquid asset? Yes or no? If you want to sell land today, will you be able to sell it without any loss of value? Liquid tab hoga when it is easily converted into paper without loss of time or value. Any currency or any form of money, claim on money, will be a liquid source only when it can be converted into cash without loss of time or value. Is land liquid? क्योंकि अगर अभी बेचना है, you will definitely have to take a fall in value. उसका value should not fall across a period of time. This becomes a liquid asset. So this liquid asset is what defines near money, example being a government security. Now what are the features of government security? Government security, see, understand the bond dynamics here. This will be used in further relations. Government security, government wants to raise money from the people. So they have issued a bond, people will give money for that bond, get a bond in return. Now bond has certain features. This security will have a face value. How much of the money the government wants from it. For example, the government is trying to raise rupees 100. This government security, since you are taking money from someone, you will have to offer an interest rate. This interest rate will be called as the coupon rate. This is the percentage return you are offering to them on the bond. And you are taking money for some duration. This duration will be its maturity. So if you have taken money for 1 year, you are going to get a 5% return or whatever return the government is saying, 5, 7, whatever. That means after 1 year, you can take 107 rupees from the government. So any bond has a face value, has a coupon rate, and has a maturity. The person who's buying this at the end of the maturity is going to get 107. That means the return on the bond for him, if he holds to maturity, is fixed. Anyone who holds the bond till maturity, the return is fixed for them. You cannot change this. But what if this person after 6 months is in need for money? After 6 months, he cannot hold it 107 till 1 year. He wants to sell in the market. Now, how will he sell in the market when he cannot alter the percentage return? कूपन रेट तो रिटर्न नहीं कर सकता है. गवर्नमेंट ने बोला जिसने भी बॉन्ड होल्ड किया है वो 1 साल बाद 107 ले जाओ. That means this bond has fixed return. If government is going to pay this only. Government is not going to. You do it whatever with whoever is holding, sell it, buy it, whatever you want to do it. When you come back to us, we are going to give you a fixed return. That is the percentage return, that is coupon rate. Now, coupon rate he cannot alter. Then how exactly he is going to sell? A person wants to buy this bond. The person who wants to buy it, say for example, he has 100 rupees. एक कोई 100 अपने वापस चाहिए. Now problem with this is I can't change the coupon rate. Now this person B will invest this 100 rupees either in the bond or will check any other instrument in the market. ये compare करेगा return बाकी rate पे क्या है. For example, if the bank is offering him 9% return, that means on 100 he is going to get 100 and why will he get a bond of 100 whose return is only? In what scenario can I sell this bond? Now I can't change this 7 because I can't change the percentage rate. So what exactly will change? the price of the bond will have to be lesser than 100. This is called as the bond price. The face value is the price at which the bond was issued. The bond price is the price at which it is being bought and sold in the market. So I can't change the coupon rate, I will change the bond price. Now if 100 rupees, 7 rupees is the return being earned on 100, here the return is 9. So at what price should the bond sell so that I have a comparable return? 97. 97. ऐसे कैसे told? If you have 7 rupees and you want 9 rupees return here, 98 and 107 is going to give you what? Is it clear? That means the price of the bond is less than 100, then only I will buy it. That means if the interest rate, this is the market rate bank is offering, if the interest rate in the market increases, it goes from 9 to 11, what will happen to the bond price? The bond price will decrease. That means the price of the bond at which it is bought and sold in the market is inversely related to the market interest rate. This is not the coupon rate but the market interest rate. That means if it increases, the bond price will fall. If it decreases, the bond price will rise. Is this clear? Now if I want to check the return of this bond, return on any bond is called as its bond yield. Return on a bond is bond yield. So on what factors is the yield depending? Yield depends on two factors. First, yield is directly related to what the coupon rate is being offered. If coupon rate is 7%, my return is 7. Coupon rate is 9, my yield increases. That means if I increase the coupon rate, my yield goes up. The yield in the second case is also dependent on the bond price, because now I can't alter the coupon rate. So if the bond price increases in the market, will the yield increase or decrease? The yield will decrease. यहाँ पे bond price कम हो रहा है, तभी मेरी yield 7 से 9 जा रही है. That means two relations are confirmed, that the bond price is inversely related to the market interest rate and the yield on the bond is inversely related to the bond price. Otherwise it's similar thing. If you see, I will buy a bond only when its return is equal to the market interest rate. अगर मार्केट का 9% रिटर्न है तो मेरे को बॉन्ड पे भी 9% चाहिए, तभी मैं बॉन्ड लूंगा. दैट मीन्स यील्ड एंड मार्केट इंटरेस्ट रेट आर डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड. द बॉन्ड प्राइस एंड मार्केट इंटरेस्ट रेट इनवर्सली, द बॉन्ड प्राइस एंड यील्ड inversely related. So in a case when your market interest rate was 9%, it increased to 11%. I was buying the 100 rupees bond which had 7% rate at 98 rupees. Now to get the same yield, how much will I buy the bond for? 90. That means if market interest rate is rising, the bond price is falling. In this case, what is the yield of the person who's buying the bond? What is the return for the person who's buying this bond? 9. In this case, that means bond price falls, yield increases. Market rate increases, the bond price falls. Bond price falls, the yield increases. So this relationship will always stand true. If the market interest rate increases, the yield on the bond will have to increase. Yield can only increase when the bond prices fall. So if any bond or any security, if you have for any reason the yield is increasing, you will have a fall in bond price. तो जो आपने asset hold किया है उसका price fall हो रहा है. If the interest rates in the market are rising and someone is holding a bond worth rupees 100, he knows the value of his bond is falling. Because of the rise in interest rate, the market has to offer an equal yield on the bond also. The bond price will have to fall. This relationship will always work true. Is this clear how this is working? What is the relationship between the yield of a bond, the bond price and interest rate? Yield will rise when bond price falls because coupon rate cannot be altered. The one who is issuing, he is not dealing in the market. जो इशू करता वो डील करता मार्केट में, देन देयर कुड हैव बीन सर्टेन डिफरेंट थिंग्स. ही इज नॉट डीलिंग. उसने एक बार बेच दिया, एक साल बाद. दिस इज व्हाट इज द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ अ बॉन्ड. द बॉन्ड हैज अ फिक्स्ड रिटर्न. If someone wants to borrow between buy or sell, it will be sold at a discount or it will be sold at a premium. Price of the bond will change. Face value and coupon rate, this is which cannot change. क्योंकि जो इसने इशू किया वो तो फिक्स रिटर्न आपको प्रॉमिस कर रहा है. बॉन्ड इज डिफाइंड लाइक दिस ओनली. बॉन्ड इज समथिंग विच गिव्स अ फिक्स्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न एट मैच्योरिटी. फिक्स्ड रिटर्न एट मैच्योरिटी. बट इफ यू वांट टू बाय और सेल बिटवीन द maturity period, the bond price will change. This only will change the yield. And why the yield should change? Anyone who wants to buy this bond will have to compare the return on the bond with other market instruments. So market में क्या हो रहा है, this will decide my yield. Then my yield will be bond price. Is this clear relation? Consider just one scenario. What if a person is expecting inflation to rise in the future? There are expectations of inflation. What will happen to the bond yield? There are expectations that inflation is going to rise in the future. What is going to happen on bond yield? If I know inflation is going to rise, right? If inflation expectation, forget interest rate. My expectations are inflation are going to rise. That means I need more money to spend on goods. Will I have money to invest? If I don't have money to invest, what will be the demand of the bond? Demand will be less. Demand will be less. What will happen to the bond price? Bond price will, आप मुझे तभी खरीदवा पाओगे जब उसको yield ज्यादा दो. And forget this relation. Simple expectation. If someone has an expectation of inflation, will he want more coverage on his money or less? अगर 6% का इन्फ्लेशन हो रहा है और बॉन्ड पे 4% रिटर्न है, डू आई नीड मनी टू कवर फॉर इन्फ्लेशन और नॉट? Inflation expectations mean I'm expecting the prices to go up. If prices are going up, am I expecting more yield or less yield? Both the cases, the yield will be more. So if I have less money because of inflation expectations, the demand for the bond will also be less. You can only make me buy the bond when you fall in prices. That means the yield will have to rise. Consider another case in case of government. Is it clear how bond yield is dependent on a lot of other factors? और bond yield change होगा तो bond price ही change होगा. Consider if the government is borrowing more, fiscal deficit is more, what will happen to the bond yield? जो भी नया bond government issue करेगी, what exactly will be happening to the bond yield? If someone borrows more, is he getting more riskier or less riskier? And if someone is getting more riskier, will you demand more yield or less yield? That means the bond price will fall. If there are expectations the government borrows more, the people expect higher yield because now you're getting risky. If inflation expectations, I need more money to cover for my whatever the inflation cost will be, I will demand more yield. And how will the yield change? The bond price will fall. Is this clear how the yield of a bond will depend on various things happening in the economy? All these things will impact what exactly is bond yield. And how does it impact bond yield? It impacts through the bond price. Because I can't change the coupon rate or even the face value. I will have to reduce the bond price or I will have to increase the bond price, whatever the yield is. Is it clear? Whatever the expenditure, I don't think. I am the one who's giving you money. आप वो कैसे भी spend करो मुझे नहीं पता. But अगर आप ज़्यादा spend कर रहे हो, that means I will demand more yield because you are turning risky. उस पैसे का क्या use कर रहे हो? I'm not considering that. This is just a relationship where the government is borrowing money from someone. तो नया वाले पे तो yield ज़्यादा देगा ही. नए वाले पे yield वो ऐसे ज़्यादा दे सकता है कूपन रेट ज़्यादा करके. पुराने वाले bond yields का भी yield बढ़ाना पड़ेगा because you don't have trust. Both bonds, see, when the government is borrowing more, there are two things happening. One is the government is making a new borrowing. When the government is making a new borrowing, उस पे तो yield ज़्यादा देना पड़ेगा ही, तो उस पे वो कूपन रेट ज़्यादा दे सकता है. और the older debt which the government has taken, so people know that the government is taking riskier. जब new bond पे ज़्यादा मिल रहा है तो old bond सस्ता क्यों बिकेगा? old bond will also give me a higher yield. वो कब होगा? जब bond price will fall. हाँ, old monk पे सबको हंसी आ रही है. Is it clear? Old monk, I said old monk, so everybody is laughing. Is it clear? What is old monk? Yeah, very good. So innocent. Is it clear? What exactly is yield and bond price? The bond yield will change on what is happening in the market. In our economy, in outside economies, everything will impact the bond yield because it is dependent on what the market rate is offering. It is dependent on whether the fiscal deficit is rising or not. It is dependent on what the inflation rates are. Consider if there is a recession. Economy में recession हो रहा है. Which is the safest instrument to save? Who's the safest person to give money to? Government. That means the government security will see a higher demand. If there is a higher demand of government securities, what happens to the bond prices? The bond prices increase, what happens to? When the government knows that government is the safest thing, why will it offer a higher yield? It will offer a, but if you have growth or expansion, if there is growth or expansion, that means people's money can have a better use. I can invest mostly in the equity market. Share market मुझे बहुत अच्छा return देगा because companies are growing, everyone's growing, my return will be good. That means the demand for government security is going to fall. Therefore, the yield has to, ये rise करेगा तभी ये होगा. Is it clear? Now, if there is a question that if the government yield is rising because of any factor, the yield on the government security is rising because of any factor, because of inflation or whatever factor, government is borrowing more, yield is increasing. Now, if the yield on the government bond is increasing, what will be the impact on the stock market? The stock market, what is the impact? The stock market will see a fall. Why? Because people's money will be spent here. My opportunity cost is high if I spend money here. So why should I do it here when the return good is here? So increasing yield has a negative impact on the equities of the companies. People are not going to invest in the stock market. This is how yield can be impacted by a lot of factors, and yield can also cause implications. The only thing you have to remember is that the yield of a bond is inversely related to its bond price, and yield of a bond is directly related to the market interest rate. These are the two important relations, and out of this will flow that market interest rate is directly related to, inversely related to bond price. Is this clear? Any doubts in this relationship? This has a lot of other implications also. तो अगर interest rate बढ़ रहा है मेरा market में, the bond price is going to fall. So if the interest rate is going from 7 to 9, return यहाँ भी 9 चाहिए. 9 तब मिलेगा जब वो 100 से कम पे बिकेगा. That means the bond price has to fall. And since 7 to 9 it is increasing, I will demand an equal return on the bond itself. The yield is rising. Yield will rise only when the bond price falls. Whatever reasons, government is the most secured borrower. अगर गवर्नमेंट ही पैसे नहीं दे पाएगा, गवर्नमेंट के पास प्रिंटिंग ऑफ मनी इज द थिंग विच इज देयर विद द गवर्नमेंट. हाउ कैन गवर्नमेंट नॉट पे? इंटरनल में तो कभी प्रॉब्लम होगी नहीं ना. आई कैन प्रिंट एनी मनी एंड गिव इट. अब गवर्नमेंट मनी इफ आई प्रिंट एंड गिव इट, डेफिनेटली वैल्यू इज. आई टोल्ड यू इफ देयर इज इन्फ्लेशन इन द इकोनॉमी, द इन्फ्लेशन इन द इकोनॉमी, द गवर्नमेंट इज इरोडिंग अवे द डेट, बिकॉज पैसे की वैल्यू कम हो रही है तो उन्हें कम वैल्यू देनी है. आज ज्यादा वैल्यू ले रहे हैं, आगे कम वैल्यू देनी है. This is a benefit for the government. So government can default on external loans, क्योंकि आपको external loans डॉलर में देने हैं. आप अपने पैसे प्रिंट करके उनको नहीं दे सकते. वहां डिफॉल्ट हो सकता है. This was, we were on the verge of default in 91. Sri Lankan government has recently defaulted. They can default there. There can be a problem because other people will not accept your currency, but your people will definitely accept your currency. Fiat currency का यही तो benefit है. This is what Bitcoin proponents are saying. They can erode away the value by printing more. So why are you trusting this currency? If the government has control, you should not trust it. There should be decentralized. But decentralized में not everybody is trusting because currency में trust ही government की वजह से आया था. You understand why it is happening? Bitcoin आया इसलिए था because you are eroding away the trust. This is why the yield will change. Yield is a response to the market conditions. Yield is nothing but response to market conditions. Consider why will someone buy a bond if the yield is not same as compared to other instruments. So if the market situation is changing, आपका inflation हो रहा है, inflation is happening say at the rate of 12%, और बॉन्ड का गवर्नमेंट ने रिटर्न प्रॉमिस किया है 5%. हु इज गोइंग टू बाय दिस 5% बॉन्ड? जब मेरा कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग इज राइजिंग बाय 12%, माय रिटर्न इज ओनली 5%. व्हाई विल आई बाय दिस बॉन्ड? I will buy the bond only when you cover the cost of inflation. And how will you cover the cost? You will have to reduce the bond price. So this is how bond price is related to yield. Because yield अब सिर्फ bond price से ही change होगी. और yield क्यों change हो रही है? Because rest of the economy is changing. So economy-wide considerations will change the return on the bond. Then only the bond has a demand, which can only happen when you change the bond price. So bond price is the price at which the bond is bought and sold in the market. At what it is issued, it is the face value. The definition of a bond is that it gives you a fixed return at maturity. 5%, 100 rupees, 105 ले लेना, जो भी market में हो, हमें नहीं पता. You take this from us. This is. So if the inflation is rising, when the government issues at face value, will it have to offer more coupon rate? न्यूअर पे कूपन रेट बढ़ा सकता हूं, बट पुराने वालों का फिर अगर नए वालों का यील्ड ज्यादा है तो पुराने वाला क्यों लेगा कोई सस्ता? मार्केट में दे ऑल्सो डिमांड मोर यील्ड. दिस यील्ड विल चेंज. इज दिस क्लियर हाउ द बॉन्ड यील्ड इज चेंजिंग? It depends on how the market is performing, what inflation is, what equity rates are, what different things are. Because whenever you want to invest in a bond, you will compare it with other instruments in the market. Other instruments depend on what the conditions are. So US government also takes an actions. It will increase the interest rate, decrease the interest rate. You can have outflow or inflow of currency. Outflow, inflow of currency, you can have an impact on the interest rates which are there in the market. Interest rates change, the yield changes. So any impact that the economy faces domestically or externally, you can have a change in yield. And how does the yield change? Because of the bond price. Because the market is looking for alternative options apart from bond. Is this clear how the bond dynamics work? You can write down this. हाँ, bond and security is same. Security एक larger term है. Security is a claim on money. So bond is also a security. Stocks is also a security. It's a claim on money. अगर फिजिकल डेफिसिट इंक्रीज करा, मनी इंक्रीज होता तब होता डेप्रिसिएशन. व्हेन द मनी रुपी और डॉलर की वैल्यू इज रिलेटिव. सो इफ यू आर इंक्रीजिंग द सप्लाई ऑफ रुपी एज कंपेयर टू डॉलर, आर यू डेप्रिशिएटिंग योर करेंसी? एट द एंड ऑफ द डे डॉलर का डिमांड सप्लाई विद रिस्पेक्ट टू रुपी इज डिसाइडिंग द वैल्यू, राइट? सो डॉलर अगर डिमांड सप्लाई चेंज होता है, रुपी की वैल्यू चेंज होता है. अगर रुपी का एकदम सप्लाई बढ़ा दोगे तब भी डिप्रिशिएट हो जाएगा. तो अगर गवर्नमेंट टू बोरो फॉर इट्स फिस्कल डेफिसिट प्रिंट्स मोर मनी, डेफिनेटली मनी सप्लाई इज इंक्रीजिंग. मनी सप्लाई इंक्रीजेस, यू हैव डिप्रिसिएशन. दैट्स अ डिफरेंट कॉन्सेप्ट, वो यहाँ लिंक्ड नहीं है. इज इट क्लियर? बॉन्ड डायनामिक्स, यील्ड एंड बॉन्ड प्राइस. यू कैन राइट डाउन नियर मनी. There are certain instruments which are claim on money. There are certain instruments which are claim on money. That means these assets have to be first converted. That means these assets have to be first converted into actual money. Before using them for any transaction. Before using them for any transaction. Example, government security. These are highly liquid assets. These are highly liquid assets. Where liquidity is converting into cash. Where liquidity is converting into cash. Without loss of time and value. Liquidity is the conversion into cash without much loss of time on value. So now various assets which are claim on money, can you arrange them on basis of their liquidity? For example, gold, real estate, securities, all have different liquidities, or even the fixed deposits of bank. There are two types of deposits in a bank. One is a demand deposit, the current account and the saving account. The other is a fixed deposit, that's a time deposit. Out of these two, which is more liquid? Demand, because fixed deposits you cannot break. That means you have to wait for that period of time. Land also बिक तो जाएगा उस time पे. Time का definitely you can constrict, but value खत्म हो जाएगी. Without loss of value and time, you don't have to wait. The more easily you are doing it, the more liquid the instrument is. Liquidity is the ability to convert into cash without loss of time and value. You should not be losing any value also. This is the concept of liquidity. Next, right? Definitely you can sell without much loss. This is yield is comparable. अगर interest rate same हो as compared to yield, you are selling it. Easy to convert. Gold और उस पे इतना आसान नहीं होगा. Because government is the most secured lender. So you trust government. Gold में तो 100 बार आप टेस्ट भी कराओगे ना प्योर है कि नहीं है. Government security लिखा है, government security you will trust it. It's the government you have taken money from. So this is why. Next, right? Any bond has a face value. Any bond has a face value. A coupon rate. A maturity period. In the next one, right? The price at which the bond is traded in the market. The price at which the bond is traded in the market before its maturity period is the bond price. Before its maturity period is its bond price. The return on the bond, depends on, in bracket write down yield, return on bond bracket yield. This is called yield. The return on the bond depends on the coupon rate and the bond price. If the price of the bond rises in the market, if the price of the bond rises in the market, if the price of the bond rises in the market, the yield will fall. If the price of the bond rises in the market, the yield will fall, and vice versa. The bond price is inversely related to the market interest rate, which implies that if the market interest rate increases, the bond price will fall. And vice versa. Are these relationships clear? What is happening with respect to yield and this? So now if you have any changes in yield, it is because of changes in bond price. And why bond price is changing? Because its demand change hota hai. Demand will change because of various factors. Is this clear? How the bond yield dynamics work? The next is demand for money. If it is inflation, you are expecting to rise. राइट मतलब इसमें क्या किस केस में आप बोरो करोगे या किस केस में बॉन्ड में इन्वेस्ट करोगे? इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ रहा है एंड यू आर अ इन्वेस्टर हु वांट्स टू पुट इन मनी, व्हेन विल यू इन्वेस्ट इन द बॉन्ड? जब उस पर ज्यादा रिटर्न हो, कम रिटर्न होगा, यू विल डिमांड अ हायर यील्ड। हायर यील्ड कब होगी? जब बॉन्ड प्राइस, आपको बॉन्ड सस्ते में मिलेगा। और अदरवाइज ऑल्सो इफ देयर इज मोर इन्फ्लेशन यू आर एक्सपेक्टिंग, यू कैन, समवन विल मेक यू बाय ओनली व्हेन द बॉन्ड प्राइस इज लेस। तो इसकी डिमांड तभी बनेगी जब बॉन्ड प्राइस कम होगा। अगर डिमांड हाई है तो प्राइस हाई होगा, डिमांड कम होगी बॉन्ड प्राइस विल फॉल, द यील्ड विल राइज। एनीवन कैन मेक यू बाय दिस ओनली देन। द पर्सन हु इज सेलिंग दिस बॉन्ड, उसका लॉस हुआ है क्योंकि उसको सस्ते में देना पड़ा। इज इट क्लियर? नाउ व्हाट इज द डिमांड फॉर मनी? व्हाई वुड पीपल डिमांड मनी? The demand for money is decided because of three factors or three motives. People demand money for three purposes. The first purpose why people want money is the transaction motive or transaction demand. Now, transaction motive, this is the first most basic thing which we need money for. That is for transaction of goods. That means exchange. Now, on what factors will this transaction motive depend? See, why are we needing money for transactions? The first thing, it should be clear. You receive income on one day, that is salary, but you make expenditures throughout 30 days. Right? ऐसा तो नहीं है. Transaction demand would be absent if you would have been receiving the salary every day. Right? एक दिन इनकम मिल रही है, 30 days you need to spend, therefore you need some money for transactions. ये डिमांड इसलिए बन रही है because income is received at one day and has to spend on 30. That means you need certain money in these 30 days for transactions. If you would have been receiving the salary every day, this transaction demand would not happen. तो जब सैलरी आ रही है तभी आप एक्सपेंडिचर कर रहे हो, अभी एक्सपेंडिचर स्प्रेड आउट है और सैलरी और इनकम एक ही दिन आती है. That means in 30 days के लिए, transactions के लिए you will need money. This is the transaction demand. Now this transaction motive or transaction demand, that is money used for transactions or exchange, this will depend on what factors? First, if the income of a person is high, will he demand more money for transactions? That means the transaction demand is directly related to income. जिसकी income ज़्यादा है, he has more transactions to do, more exchanges to do. That means if the income level of the population increases, the transaction demand for money will increase. Is this clear? The second factor on which transaction demand will depend on is your interest rate. If the market interest rates are high, if the bank is offering you a good interest rate on savings, will you need more money for transaction or will you demand more money for transaction or less? Why? Because now your opportunity cost of expenditure is high. The same money could have been saved in the bank and the same money could have been demanded for transaction. Now if the interest rates are high, that means if I save, I will get better returns as compared to this. So if the interest rates are high, the opportunity cost of transaction is quite high because I'm foregoing this money. Therefore the transaction motive, since I need money in these 30 days for transactions, this is dependent on my income and interest rate. More the income, more money required for transaction. Lesser the income, the lesser money required for transactions. More interest rate means transaction demand will be less. Is this clear? I need money. Why do you need money? I need money for transaction. Why? Because income or salary comes at one point and expenditure happens throughout. तो वो throughout के लिए मेरे पास पैसे चाहिए. That means I have a transaction motive. Another motive for which I need money is called as a precautionary motive. What if in the next 30 days there is some accident or any other emergency? Do you need money for any expenses then? ये तो मेरा expenditure है, but there could be certain things where I need money saved with me. This is called as precautionary motive. Now precautionary motive will depend on what? Is it clear? We are talking about why do you need money. One, you need money for transactions. It's not coming at one point, it's coming at one point. Expenditure happens 30 days. तो उन 30 days में आपको पैसे चाहिए, आपकी डिमांड है. डिमांड डिपेंड्स ऑन योर इनकम एंड दिस. जिसकी ज्यादा इनकम है उसको ज्यादा पैसे चाहिए. Coming to the second demand, this is precautionary motive. What if some incident happens, you need money saved for it. So this demand for precaution will depend on what? It will completely be dependent on the behavior of the person. Not everybody saves, right? घर वाले क्या बोलते हैं, बचा लो कुछ, क्या पता क्या हो जाए, होगा देखेंगे. It completely depends what your risk perception is. If your risk perception is that if you think you are going to die soon, which nobody thinks. एक बहुत ही risky driver है, बाइक चलाता है ऐसे. A lot of people don't understand the concept of straight driving. उनकी बाइक चलती ऐसे कर्व में है, then expansion and contraction होता है, they move. That means risk perception is high, so they need more. This is completely a behavioral factor. I need money for transactions. I transact more because I have more income. Or if income can be saved, it will be giving me more returns, I'll save it first. But this is a completely dependent on a factor which might happen in the future. This is for an accident or emergency which you are thinking this might happen. So it's based on your perception whether this event will materialize or not. Based on that only you will save money. This precautionary is keeping money with yourself, thinking of a risk in future. So this is not dependent on any market factor. This will completely be dependent on what your risk perception is. In spite of the interest rates being high, in spite of your income, if you think there's higher risk, you will demand more money for precaution. This will never be dependent on your income or interest rate or any of the market factors, because this is completely dependent on risk perception. Behavioral factor hai. If I think I have more risk, I will save more. Less risk, I will not save. It completely depends on the behavior of the person. Is it clear? Then the third thing why we need money, apart from transaction and precaution, is we want to earn certain wealth. This is called as speculation. The speculation demand for money. This is use of money as a store of wealth. I am going to speculate, I need money because either I'll hold it in cash or I can invest in certain asset. For example, I'm investing in bond. So how much money would I require for doing these transactions? This is my speculative demand. I want money as a store of value. I want to create wealth. How will I create wealth? Whether I invest money in this or I keep it in cash. This is the speculative demand for money. Money used as a store of wealth. How will it be used as a store of wealth? When I invest in certain asset. This is the speculative demand. So there are three motives why I need money. I need money to do exchanges, I need money for emergencies, and I need money for speculation. So the demand for money is driven by three motives: transaction, precaution, and speculation. This is why I need money. Now on what factors will the speculation demand depend on? Return on investment, how will you decide? See, if the interest rates in the market are low right now, the interest rates in the market are low right now, your future expectation on everything, speculation will depend on your future expectation. आपको क्या लगता है वो प्राइस कहां जाएगा, उसी पे डिपेंड करेगा आप कितने पैसे मांगते हो. Now my future expectation of interest rate is what? If the interest rates are quite low right now, if the interest rates are quite low, my expectation on interest rate is in the future they are only going to rise. Sorry. The interest rates in the market, that is RBI ने interest rate रखा हुआ है 0 to 1, इतना लो है कि वो सिर्फ rise करेगा फ्यूचर में. This is my expectation. इससे नीचे तो नहीं जाएगा, नेगेटिव नहीं होगा. It will only rise in the future. If it is going to rise in the future, the interest rate, if the asset I'm going to buy, that is bond, what will happen to the future expectation of bond price? Not today, future expectation on bond price. If the interest rate are rising, bond price को क्या होगा? Not yield, I'm asking price. The price will, rate increase हो रहा है तो yield increase होगा, yield increase होगा तो price क्या होगा? Will anyone invest in an asset whose future expectation is the price fall? That means all of the money I have for speculation, I will hold in. That means my demand for speculation is going to be too high. I need money as speculation. I'm only going to invest when I know when the return is good. That means all of my speculation demand for money is quite high because my asset price is going to fall. In another case, if the interest rates are too high, what is the expectation of future interest rate? It will be that it is going to fall. If it is going to fall, what is going to happen to bond price? Increase. Now, if the bond price increases, will I invest in bond or will I hold cash? Invest in bond. That means your speculative demand for money is quite low. The demand for money is, you need cash for what? I need cash for speculation, I need cash for precaution, and I need cash for transaction. तो अगर asset price future में rise होता है, will I keep more cash or less cash? Asset prices are rising in future, less cash. That means if the interest rates in the market are high, the money demand for speculation is low because I am investing in asset. That means the interest rate in the market and the speculation demand for money are inversely related. अगर interest rate low है, I have very high. If interest rates are low, I have very high speculation demand. If interest rates are too high, I have very low speculation demand. Is this clear? It's everything is based on future expectations. अगर आज interest rate बहुत low है, I am going to expect a rise in future. If they rise in the future, the bond price will. Will anyone want to hold an asset whose price is decreasing? That means all of the money will be held in form of cash. It will not be invested in asset. If the interest rates are high, my expectation is, all of this is expectation. So demand will be that it is going to fall in future. That means bond prices, I will invest, I will not hold cash. So my speculative demand is the money I have received or I have demanded for speculation. मैं speculate तभी करूँगा जब मैं invest करूँगा when I will see a rise. Then my money demand for speculation will be low because I'm locking my money in the asset. If I know the asset prices fall, I will keep on demanding, but I will not invest. The money demand for speculation is going to be infinitely high. Is this clear? The relationship between interest rates and bond prices, how are they linked? They are inversely related. So interest rates increase, bond prices will fall. In the future, if I know interest rates are going to rise, the bond price is falling, will I demand bond or will I demand money? Money speculation will be. If the interest rates fall in future, I am expecting this to happen. The bond price is going to. Will I hold more money or more asset? Speculation demand is less. Is this clear? That means interest rates today and speculation are inversely related. Money supply लिख दें anyhow. You need money for what? Why do you need cash? We are trying to understand why do people have demand for cash? That is, why do people have demand for money? Why do people demand money? First, I know I get my salary on one day, but I don't spend this salary on the same day. I have 30 days where I have to do the expenditure. तो 29 दिन में मेरे पास पैसे होने चाहिए. That means I need money for transactions. This is why you are demanding money, because you have to spend money across 30 days. You're getting money at one point. So for that you need money for transaction. If you have more income, you will have more transactions to do. You will make more expenditures. One factor could be that if you have more income, your transaction will be more. Your more transaction means you will have more income, then only more transaction demand. Another factor that can impact transaction demand. Now you have more income, you are thinking whether the money should be saved or the money should be spent. If the interest rates are too high, your savings, you're getting a very good return, right? So your opportunity cost of expenditure is high. What is opportunity cost? Second best minus the first chosen. You chose this option. What is the second best? और सेव से आपका रिटर्न बहुत अच्छा है. That means opportunity cost of spending is high. So interest rate increases, your transaction demand will fall. This is need of cash for transaction. Similarly, in these 30 days, I can also have certain accidents I need to take precaution for. Emergency and any contingency which can happen in the future. It's all risk, whether it materializes or not, that's a different thing. तो उन risk के लिए मेरे को कुछ पैसे चाहिए. This is precaution. This is completely dependent on the behavior of the person. Behavior both in terms of actions and behavior in terms of risk and perception. आदमी बहुत खुद रिस्की हो सकता है, but perception उसका risk हो सकता है, हाँ कुछ नहीं होगा. Right? This is completely individual factor. You can't determine as per market. Some people get scared very easily, so they'll save more. कि क्या पता नहीं क्या हो जाए. This is what I said. जी लो जिंदगी, खर्च कर लो, कुछ नहीं होगा. Right? This is where the insurance industry then comes in. जिंदगी के बाद भी जिंदगी के, तो यहीं पे खेल रहे हैं वो, इसी रिस्क पे खेल रहे हैं. They take a premium for this only. So this is a precaution. You need cash for that. This is a completely behavior factor. Now you want to create some wealth. You want to create some wealth. There are various assets in the market. You expect a price increase in the assets. So उस speculation के लिए, this is what is saying, gambling के लिए, will you demand money? मुझे Dream 11 खेलना, cash चाहिए. Dream 11 क्यों खेलना? Because I'm expecting I'll win. So general in economy, we expect speculation in asset prices. ऐसे I told you asset bubble बनता है. Why are people expecting the value to rise? Because of some factor. So they are speculating. Speculation means everything happens in the future. So this demand for money is for generating certain. मैंने खर्चे के लिए ले लिए पैसे, savings for precaution I have taken. Now I want to generate wealth with my money. So I need money for generation of this wealth. I'll use this money for investment in asset. I will only put the money in asset when I know that its prices in the future are going to rise. If the prices in the future are going to rise, that means my money for speculation, अब जितना मेरे पास cash था वो कम बच गया क्योंकि मैंने सब asset में डाल दिया. That means if I'm locking in an asset, I will have the speculation demand for money is less. Right? Now see how asset prices are driven. We established a relationship that if interest rates in the market rise, the bond price falls. Right? Now see what is happening in the market. The present interest rate, this is the present situation. The interest rates in the market are low. My future expectations on the interest rates are that these interest rates are going to only rise. इससे low नहीं जाएगा, it's going to rise. If my future expectation of interest rate is that it is going to rise, what exactly is my future expectation on bond price? Of my bond, I'm considering bond as an asset. On the bond price, what is my future expectation? It will fall. Now if the bond price falls in future, will I invest money? Expect कर रहा हूँ कि prices fall होंगे. Nobody wants to hold money in a value in an asset whose prices are falling. So if the asset prices are falling, the present day speculation demand for money is going to be high or low. मैं सारा cash में ही रखूंगा, मैं क्यों asset में block करूंगा? That means speculation demand, the demand for speculation is high because I'm not using that cash. If the interest rates are high presently, I'm expecting them to fall. If I'm expecting them to fall, what is the expectation on bond price? Increase. If the prices increase in future, this is why I invest in bond, because I know my asset ka prices are rising. If the prices are rising, then what happens to speculative demand? Therefore, if I plot today's interest rate and the speculative demand for money, it is going to be inversely related. अगर interest rate बहुत high है, I'm only expecting them to fall. If I expect them to fall, the future expectation on bond price rise. So speculative demand is going to be, it is going to be quite less. But if interest rates are too low, I'm only going to expect them to rise in future. If they rise in future, the bond prices fall. That means मेरा speculative demand money is quite high. This is high, this is low. फ्यूचर एक्सपेक्टेशन टाइम पे ही है सब. मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि क्या होगा फ्यूचर में. आई एम थिंकिंग कि ये whenever you invest in an asset, क्या सोचते हो आप? ये आगे this is what you are expecting. So today money you will hold expecting on what? If you expect कि वो बढ़ेगा आगे, will you hold money or will you invest? What time? With time only I'm expecting कि यही होगा अभी presently. टाइम में सोच के ही तो ये ग्राफ बना है. बॉन्ड प्राइस, व्हाट आर यू एक्सपेक्टिंग इन द फ्यूचर? उसके हिसाब से आज डिसीजन ले रहे हो. तो आज का रिलेशनशिप तो ऐसे आएगा, उसमें टाइम क्या करेगा? आज का रिलेशनशिप तो यही सोच के आ रहा है ना फ्यूचर में क्या होगा. तो आज का रिलेशन वुड बी बेस्ड ऑन दैट. सो दैट मींस लो इंटरेस्ट रेट्स इज हाई स्पेक्युलेटिव डिमांड. इज दिस क्लियर? Is this relationship clear? Now consider another thing here in this whole situation itself. Now if the central bank of the country has reduced the interest rate to say 0 or very less percent, low percentages, right? Now why have they done this? Because they want to push growth in the economy. They want people to invest in the economy, right? This is why they have kept the interest rate low. But if the interest rates are kept quite low, what is my future expectation on interest rate? That interest rate is only going to rise in future. They are so low right now. If they're going to rise in future, what happens to bond prices? The bond price will fall. Now in this case, will I invest in the asset or will I hold money? Hold money. This is called as a liquidity trap. The central bank is trying to push liquidity. Liquidity is increase money supply by putting it lesser interest rate. आपको वो cash देना चाह रहे हैं. But your expectations of future is that the bond prices or the asset prices fall. That means you are willing to hold more cash. You're not willing to spend. You're not willing to spend. You're not willing to invest. This means all of the liquidity the central bank has sent has been trapped. The interest rates are so low that your speculative demand has gone completely elastic. You are completely holding cash. It's become infinite. You know only the asset prices are going to fall in future. Why should I invest? And if you don't invest, whatever the liquidity the central bank is sending has been trapped. Nobody is spending money because they are expecting prices to fall in future. If prices are going to fall in future, you are going to hold cash. That means the push of the liquidity by the central bank has been completely trapped. This is a liquidity trap. In a liquidity trap, the interest rates are quite low. Expectations are that they're going to rise in future. इतने low हैं, इससे नीचे जाएंगे नहीं. This is what? They're not going to go below this. If they're not going to below this, my speculative demand is going to be perfectly elastic. I will not buy anything because the prices are falling. This is a situation of liquidity trap. Speculation demand for money is the demand for money for speculation or creation of wealth. Whether I hold cash or asset. If I hold more cash, that means I have a high demand for speculation. If I hold less cash, I have lesser demand. Because I'm locking my money in asset. This depends on the interest rates right now in the market. Because right now, whatever the interest rates are, they will set the expectation of the future. That whether they are going to rise or fall. If you expect them to rise, your asset prices will fall. You will have more money, you will not invest. If it is very high, you expect them to fall. When you expect them to fall, you have increasing asset prices, your speculative demand is less. This is what creates a liquidity trap. Present interest rate drives the future expectation where all of the liquidity gets trapped. Is this clear? You just need to know the definition. We'll discuss the solution of liquidity trap also. It is a lot of factors. You just assume कि अभी lesser interest rates and people are not expecting because this is happening. What is bond or what is bond price? ये तो समझा दिया ना. He's asking what is bond. I know it's on response portal, but how do I explain now what is a bond? Bond is an asset where you raise money from the people, take money. The bond का एक coupon rate, और this is what I was explaining in the beginning. And bond price is the price at which bond will be bought or sold. दोबारा रिवाइज या रिवीजन क्लास नहीं चल रही साथ साथ. दिस इज नॉट प्ले पॉज और ये कि बैक कर दो सर. Anyhow, that will happen, but this is surprising. I've spent 1.5 hours and the whole Ramayana has ended and नहीं राम कौन है? Is it clear? Is it clear? Any doubts here? It's not very technical. बहुत एक simple relation है that bond का interest, if the market interest rate rises, the bond has to give me equal return. It's a very simple relation that a person A has either wants to invest in bond or wants to invest in bank. Right? If bank offers him a good interest rate, will the bond have to equal yield? I will invest in the bond only when interest rates and yield are comparable. That means if interest rate rises, yield has to rise. अगर fixed interest rate है तो yield कैसे rise होगा? Interest rate will always be fixed. Then how will you change the yield? Bond price will. That means if interest rate rises, bond price fall. This is the relationship that works. So if the interest rates are low today, expectations are rise. If they rise, bond price, speculative demand is opposite. Is it clear? And liquidity trap, when they are too low, I'm only expecting them to rise in future. If they rise in future, the bond price fall, the speculative demand is high. That means RBI wants us to spend, they are not spending. Why? Because they expect a fall in bond price or they expect a fall in asset price. This is a situation of liquidity trap. कि बैंक पैसे दे रही है, सस्ते दे रही है. Then also it is getting trapped. Is this clear what is a liquidity trap? It's a situation when their interest rates are. Liquidity trap happens in a low interest rate situation or a high interest rate situation. Low interest rate. तभी तो liquidity आ रही है. वो trap इसलिए हो रही है कि इतना low है, expect कर रहे हैं high होगा. Is it clear? You can write down this demand for money, or we'll write down after a break. हाँ, in place of this asset price का मैंने एक equivalent लिया है bond. Asset could be anything. Write down demand for money. सिलेक्ट कर लो पेन पहले कौन सा लिखना है. इस हथियार से वार करना है. राइट नाउ द डिमांड फॉर मनी और द लिक्विडिटी प्रेफरेंस ऑफ पीपल. द डिमांड फॉर मनी और liquidity preference of people. The demand for money or the liquidity preference of people is driven by three different motives. First, the transaction demand or the transaction motive. Transaction demand or the transaction motive. The transaction demand for money is the need for cash balances. The transaction demand for money is the need for cash balances. Is the need for cash balances for current transactions. Is the demand for money is the need for cash balances for current transactions. That is buying goods and services. That is buying goods and services. Individuals hold this cash. Individuals hold this cash to bridge the time interval Individuals hold this cash to bridge the time interval between the receipt of money and expenditure, or between the receipt of income and expenditure. Time interval between the receipt of income and expenditure. So what it is trying to say is कि income एक दिन आती है, expenditure happens throughout. So I'm holding cash because I want to make expenditure throughout. The transaction demand is directly proportional to income. This demand is directly proportional to income. And inversely proportional to the market interest rates. Directly proportional to income and inversely proportional to the market interest rates. A higher market interest rate means directly proportional to income and inversely proportional to interest rates. A higher interest rate means a greater opportunity cost for holding money. A higher interest rate means a greater opportunity cost for holding money. Second, precautionary motive. The precautionary motive for holding money refers to the desire of people to hold cash. Refers to the desire of people to hold cash for emergencies or any unforeseen contingencies such as sickness, unemployment, accident, etc. Sickness, unemployment, accident, etc. Is this clear? What is precautionary motive? Next, right, speculation motive. Transaction, speculation, and precaution. Speculation motive. It refers to the desire to hold cash to take advantage of market movements regarding the future changes in the asset price. Future changes in the asset price. The speculative demand for money is inversely proportional to the market interest rate. The speculative demand is inversely proportional to the market interest rate. You can draw this. This is the interest rate R, and this is the speculation demand. You can also write the explanation. Present interest rate You know what is going to happen, तो वो लिख लो खुद ही. And the screen is not working. Future expectations of bond price will fall, and therefore the speculative demand is quite high. And if the present interest rate is quite, you are expecting the interest rate to, bond price is going to rise. These are the two scenarios. If the interest rate rises, the asset price falls. Is this clear? Now write liquidity trap. When the interest rates in the economy are very low, when the interest rates in the economy are very low, the speculative demand for money will become perfectly elastic. When the interest rates are very low, the speculative demand for money will become perfectly elastic or infinitely high. Will become perfectly elastic, parallel हो जाएगा curve के, or become infinitely high because the expectation is that the interest rates will only rise in future. The interest rates will only rise in future. What? Because the expectation is that interest rates will only rise in future, and therefore asset prices will fall. Therefore people will hold more cash. People will hold more cash and not invest. This situation is called as a liquidity trap. This situation is called as a liquidity trap. Because all the expansion of money supply, due to low interest rates, is getting trapped as there is no investment taking place. See, if the interest rates are low, is it clear what is liquidity trap? If the interest rates are low, private sector will invest in growth. See, why will the private sector invest? Private sector भी नहीं करेगा invest because the people are not spending anything. If people are not spending anything, who are they creating for? So future में the private sector is also, why it can take money at lower interest rate, but it's no use because they're not expanding anything because people are not spending anything. If people are not spending, there's no demand. Then there's no demand for anything. What will they create the supply for? This is why it's a trap situation where all of the money is kept in the form of cash. Nobody is spending money. So the private sector will also not invest. This is why it's a liquidity trap. And to solve this, we have quantitative easing. We're not just going to have lower interest rates, we are also going to now print more currency. Then we are going to induce the demand in the market. Two things will happen at the same time, low interest rate and more currency. This is going to induce the people to make the expenditures. We'll discuss that when we discuss monetary policy. Is this clear? What is a liquidity trap? Money demand is clear. Why do the people need money? Now the next is money supply. The demand of money is clear. See, money supply refers to the total money that is available. This is the stock of money that is available in the economy at any particular time. There are people who demand money. Who are the people who demand money? The households, the firms, and also the government for various transactions. But when we talk about money supply, we talk about what is the total stock of money available at any one point of time, but only available to the users of money, not to the producers of money. There are two producers of money in the economy. One is the government or the central bank. It can print cash. Who's the other producer of money? Government or RBI. Who's the other producer of money? Produces money. Who can produce money? Who can create money? It's the banks. Banks give out loans based on whatever they get. They create loans. That means they are also creating money. So when we talk about money supply, we only talk about the money available to the users, not to the producers. And why we're talking about only users? Because it has implication for monetary policy. Whether more money should be available, less money should be available, this decision is based on whatever the present money supply is. So when we talk about money supply, it is talking about what is the total money available in the economy at any point of time to all the users of money, which is the household, which we call public in general, and firms, which are non-banking firms. The firms should not be banking because banks can create money. We'll come to this also, how banks create money. So the money supply is the total money available to the users, not to the producers. Now there are various indicators how we can study what is the money supply in the economy available to the users. The most common or the most basic is the money supply M1. Now money supply is talking about, there are various aggregates, indicators which tell us what the money supply is. There are 4 indicators, M1, M3 and M4. All of the 4 have different indicators, and this is what tells us different things about how the money is being used in the economy, based on which the monetary policy can decide, based on which we can decide how production of money will happen. Now money supply M1 indicator, this means what is the total currency which is held by the public, not the currency with the bank. The bank का vault cash है, that will not be included. We are not including the bank's money. The currency which is held by the public and the demand deposits of the public in the bank. This is also people's money available on demand. Consumers or firms, they can create 2 types of account in banks. One is your current and saving account, and the other is time deposit. Based on the liquidity is what we'll decide M1, M2, M3, M4. M1 consists of currency held with the public and demand deposits with the bank. M2 consists of M1 plus deposits which people have with the post office. Now if we compare M1 and M2, which is more liquid? Deposits with post office are slightly lesser liquid as compared to the deposits with bank. The money supply M3 tells us M1 plus the time deposits with bank. Now if we compare M1 and M3, which is more liquid? M1 because time deposit, jitna zyada hum aage jayenge, the liquidity will reduce. It's difficult to liquidate a time deposit as compared to demand deposits. Now consider M1 and M3. Now you'll understand why we have different indicators of money supply. If the M1 is rising, but M3 doesn't change significantly, what does it tell about the supply of currency in the economy? If M1 is reducing, is increasing sharply, but M3 doesn't increase or decrease sharply, what does it tell about the use of money? That means people have more use of money in form of cash. They are not depositing for time. But if M3 is changing too fast as compared to M1, this means people have a tendency to save, not spend. So this is why we have different indicators, because this tells us about different things in the economy, based on which the central bank can change the money supply. I can put in more money or reduce, because producers can increase the money supply. See, the idea of money supply is clear. Money supply is the stock of money available at one point. It is constant. Rate of interest in quantity, if I plot, the money supply is constant. It can increase or it can decrease when producers change something. So central bank can print more money or can take other measures to increase the money supply or reduce the money supply. It will always be a constant. There are different forms because we will increase or decrease depending on what the behavior of the people is. Is it clear? M4 is M3 plus all deposits with post office. बैंक का तो यहाँ पे already हो ही गया है. That means M1 is the most liquid currency held with the public and demand deposits of the bank. M4 is the least liquid. M3 plus this. M1 and M2 are also referred to as narrow money, and M3, M4 are also referred to as broad money. So money supply is the stock of money available in the economy at one point of time. Available for the users, we don't count the producers. So I can check money supply across any indicator. It could be M1, M2, M3, M4. All of the four are different indicators. They tell me about different behaviors of how the money is being utilized, based on which I can change my money supply accordingly. RBI can expand the money supply or reduce depending on what the situation is. M1 is greater as compared to M3. This means people are using more money. There is lesser demand for savings. If M3 is more as compared to M1, if it is moving too fast, M1 is not changing. That means the time deposits with bank is changing. That means people have a tendency to save or not save. Based on my M1, M3, the RBI will always know what are the four indicators. Based on study of these indicators, RBI can increase the supply or reduce the supply. This is what is money supply. Is this clear what is money supply? Money supply is the stock of money at one point of time. Producers का count नहीं होगा because वो alter कर सकते हैं. They can create more money or less money. This is what we'll discuss. What is money multiplier? Is this clear, money supply? Now if the demand for money, if I plot the curve on both interest rate and quantity, if the interest rates are high, will I demand more money or less money? And if the interest rates are low, I'll demand more. That means the curve is going to be like this. The money demand, money supply. Money supply is going to be constant. This is money demand. This is my equilibrium interest rate. Now if the supply is constant, but suddenly the demand for money rises because of anything, the demand for money rises. Where will the curve shift? Upward. That means at the same money supply, the curve will shift upward. The interest rates are going to rise. Demand ज़्यादा है supply से, the interest rates are going to rise. How can I bring the interest rate down? If the RBI increases the supply, that is the curve will shift here. So if we plot this demand and supply based on what is the cost of money, that is interest rate, the quantity, this is what we have been doing, price and quantity. Cost of money, the interest rate, the quantity of money, the demand is going to be downward sloping and the supply is going to be constant. Supply can only increase and decrease. Why? Because the control is with the central bank and banks. Banks also, we'll see how it's controlled mostly by central banks. This is my money supply, this is my money demand. And even if the demand is constant, if the demand is constant and the RBI increases the money supply, what will happen? If demand is constant and the RBI increases the money supply, the interest rates are going to fall. If interest rates fall, will the people spend more? Why? If the interest rates fall, it's cheaper to buy. Liquidity trap एक exceptional scenario है when interest rates are absolutely low. When interest rates are zero, that means they can't fall further. That's an exceptional scenario. Doesn't mean हर बार liquidity trap ही हो जाएगी. If interest rates are brought from 8% to 4%, then I'm expected to borrow more. ये 4 से नीचे तो जा ही सकता है ना. Trap होगा जब it's very low. The only thing what can happen in a trap is interest rates can move up. Trap का situation was the interest rates can't go lower than this, it will only move up. That's the borderline scenario. यहाँ तो interest rates can fall below. That means people are expected to borrow money more because interest rates are low. More money, more expenditure means inflation. Money supply increase हो गई, interest rates have fallen. Is this clear how money supply and money demand work? Money supply is total money available to the users, not to the producers. because I want to take monetary policy decisions based on what the supply is. I can consequently increase or decrease the supply based on whatever the market situation is. And this money supply can be altered by the central bank. How it can make alteration not directly through central bank but also through banks. They are the ones who are producers of money. Is this clear what is money supply? You can write down this. The money supply is the total stock of money money supply is the total stock of money available for the society's use in connection with any economic activity. Therefore, it is the total amount of money. Therefore, it is the total amount of money with the public. The public here includes households, firms, and institutions. Household, firms, and institutions other than the banks and the government. Other than the banks and the government. No. Government money and this money will not be included. वो उसमें include होता है reserve में. I will talk about that also. Write down the rationale behind considering money supply. The rationale behind considering the money supply as the total money with the public. As the total money with the public is to separate the users of money from the producers of money. There are 4 indicators of money supply. There are 4 indicators of money supply. First, M1. M1 is equal to currency held with public. M1 is currency held with public plus demand deposits in the banks plus other deposits with RBI. There are certain institutions which keep money. This is very small. Institutions keeping money with RBI, for example, Central Bank of other countries and other things, that is included. You can write down in bracket. Other deposits with RBI. Other deposits include demand deposits of public financial institutions, LIC and all, if they have money kept with the RBI. Demand deposits of foreign central banks, demand deposits of public financial institutions, demand deposits of foreign central banks, and financial institutions like IMF, World Bank, and deposits of financial institutions like IMF or World Bank. So M1 is currency held with public. This is currency with public plus demand deposit plus other deposits with RBI. This is very negligible in number, but we still count it in M1. Any institution keeping money with RBI, that will be counted here. M2. M2 is M1 plus. M2 is M1 plus the deposits in the post bank or post office. Deposits in the post office up to 1 year. Right down, I'll explain. अब उसका कोई use भी नहीं है. Post office has been converted into banks. People have two ways to keep their money. One is either in demand deposits available on demand, or either they can deposit if the post office is giving them better interest rate. Post office, I'll tell you how small savings instruments बनाए हैं government ने. Post office के deposits पे they give a very good interest rate. So I can save money there or here. वो सारा money तो user का ही है. Plus post office के जो deposits हैं, they are not as liquid as this. So if I lock money for 1 year, I cannot take it before 1 year. So demand deposits say it is less liquid, but time deposits say it's more liquid. This is why post office, because people have an option to deposit two places. तो गवर्नमेंट ने भी एक स्कीम्स बनाई है, पोस्ट ऑफिस एक स्कीम थी. नाउ पोस्ट ऑफिस हैज बीन कन्वर्टेड इनटू इंडियन पोस्ट बैंक, तो वो बैंक ही बन गया, तो इसलिए पोस्ट पेमेंट बैंक. दिस इज व्हाट हैज चेंज्ड. इज इट क्लियर व्हाई बैंक इज डिफरेंट? पोस्ट ऑफिस. नेक्स्ट M3. M3 is M1 plus time deposits of bank. M3 is M1 plus time deposits of bank. Time deposits of banks are less liquid as compared to demand deposits. In bracket write down, time deposits of banks are less liquid as compared to demand deposits. M3 is also referred to as broad money. See, narrow measures of money are M1 and M2, and broader measures of money are M3 and M4. But a lot of sources mention M1 as narrow money, M3 as broad money. M1 is narrow, M3 is broad. Broader वो classify होता है. As compared to M4, वो M3, most of the sources refer to M1 and M3 only. M2, M4 नहीं. Because ये significant deposits है नहीं post office में. M4 is M3 plus. M4 is M3 plus all deposits of post office. All deposits of post office. Is it clear? All four? So if you want to arrange in liquidity terms, which is the highest liquid? M1, the least liquid is M4. So I want to observe the behavior of my population. I can observe all four. Where are they saving? Whether they are using more or saving more. This is through M1 and M3. You can write down the next line. The reason for classifying money supply into different measures. The reason for classifying money into different measures, money supply into different measures, is that it can help in taking a better decision. It can help in taking a better decision on maintaining monetary stability in the economy. That it can help in taking a better decision on maintaining monetary stability in the economy. For instance, if M1 is increasing rapidly, that means the transaction demand is increasing. Transaction demand is increasing. And on the other hand, if M3 increases sharply, The other hand, if M3 increases sharply without much increase in M1, means people are deciding to save more. Is this clear? Money supply. At one point of time, what is available with the public? Public is firms, institutions apart from government and banks, and households. Liquidity what? नहीं, actual में see what is M1? M1 is currency plus demand deposits plus other deposits, right? तो ये तो एक फिक्स नंबर है ना कि टोटल लोगों के पास क्या करेंसी है, डिमांड डिपॉजिट्स क्या, अदर डिपॉजिट्स, ये टोटल तो विल बी अ फिक्स नंबर. So if this number is increasing or decreasing and M3 doesn't change टाइम डिपॉजिट्स, दैट मीन्स ये नहीं बढ़ रहे हैं, इसका स्मॉल चेंजर है, इसका बड़ा चेंज है, दिस कैन हैपन. दैट मीन्स this number is not changing, this number is changing quite fast. That means people are using more money, not saving more. All of these are at any point of time, ये constant ही तो होगा. Any factors are constant. एक point of time पे कितना करेंसी है, डिमांड है, प्लस ये तो मेरे को पता चल ही सकता है. तो ये एग्रीगेट्स तो हमेशा ही आरबीआई के पास होंगे कि M1 कितना है, M2 कितना है, M3 कितना है, M4 कितना है. Why I'm seeing different four figures? Because on liquidity के लोग कर क्या रहे हैं exactly? Are they saving more or are they spending more? Based on which I can make any monetary policy decision. So these four figures I know. So if M1 is changing too fast, M3 is not changing. This means ये factor change नहीं हो रहा है. M3 का जितना भी change है वो M1 की वजह से ही है. This means people are not saving, they are spending. But if M3 changes too much, M1 doesn't change. That means people are changing this. तो ये तो constant factors है ना. This is why I'm saying money supply is at any point of time what is the quantity. ये तो constant ही रहेगी. Interest rate से थोड़ी कुछ it is changing. It's always what is the money in this class. This will always be constant. It cannot change. It can only change when I start having producers जो print कर सकते हैं, जो change कर सकते हैं अपना money supply. They can take out from the market. They can take out from the market. The money supply is going to go here. If they give it more to the market, money supply is going to go here. Demand is not related. Demand is interest rate related. वो तो interest rate से ही आ रहा है. ज़्यादा interest rate होगा तो I'll not take more money. Remember transaction demand and interest rate. Interest rate is high. Will I take more money for transaction? Demand is opposite related to this. This can only be changed through central bank or banks. Is it clear? This is money supply, this is quantity. ये equilibrium rate है. Curve shift हो जाएगा demand का when demand changes. All of these things we discussed, demand and supply. Supply will always be constant. Is this clear? Broad money means the larger money supply in the economy. M1 is narrow. Why? Because हमने time deposits include नहीं किए हैं. That means it's a narrow measure of money supply. It's a broader measure because we are including the time deposits of money also. Is it clear? The next is money multiplier. Yes. Currency held by the public, I can do only two things, either with the bank or with myself, cash or bank. बस. हाँ मतलब कोई भी demand, I'm just talking about demand is more, they're using money. Either for speculation or transaction, they're demanding money. M3 is more, that means they're saving in the bank itself. Or demand could be anything, it's just for reference their transaction. Speculation भी हो सकता है. Now another concept is money multiple. Is the demand and supply clear? Money supply and demand. You just revise things today, they're very basic. Read the chapter on money in NCERT. Everything will be clear. Along with the notes, read the NCERT chapter, it will be clear. Now money multiplier. Now how do banks create money? How can banks create money? What is the primary function of any bank? The banks take in deposits and banks give out loan. This is how it is happening. Banks do they have all the money which they have as deposits kept with themselves at any point of time? No, this is called as a fractional reserve system. If we have a full reserve system would mean deposits are 100% secured. Whenever you want the deposits, they are available to you. That means banks will not be able to create loans. It is because of a fractional reserve system only that the bank can create loan. Now, how does a bank create a loan? If anyone depositing any money in the bank, say 100 rupees, it has to keep something as reserve, rest it can give out as loan. This how much reserve the bank has to keep is determined by the central bank. The central bank determines how much reserve. So for example, the reserve is 10%. So fraction of the deposit ही आपको रखना है. This is known as the fractional reserve system. If it would have been a full reserve system, that means you have to keep 100% reserve, means you can't give out any loan. Now 10% reserve means 100 is the deposit you are getting, reserve you have to keep 10%, that means 10. What is the loan you are going to create? 90. Now that means in this economy at the same time you have 100 जिसका deposit है और 90 जिसको loan मिला है. Has the bank created money? You had 100 rupees given by someone as deposit. The bank in this economy now has 190. Why? Because 90 has been given out as loan. Only 10 has been kept as reserve. Now if this loan has been taken by another person and is deposited in say bank 2, that means this 90 is the deposit. What is the reserve bank 2 has to keep? Can it give the next 81 as loan? Now in the economy what is the money? 100 ही deposit था, ये loan गया, ये deposit बन गया आगे और इसने 81 और create कर दिए. That means on a base of 100 I have created, this will keep on going further, this will come out to be what? This progression, what will be the total value? That means on a base of 100 I have created 1000. That means the money supply has become 1000. What was the base? This is the money multiplier. Money supply is multiplied times the base. This base is the money with the RBI. RBI is creating money. Money with the RBI goes in the economy, multiplies, and you get the money supply. People are depositing money in the banks. This money in the bank is kept as reserve and the next part is given as loan. So at the same time, this economy has this 100 also जो उसका liability है और ये उसका asset है. दोनों चीजें same time पे exist कर रही हैं. If the person who comes out to ask for 100, the bank will not have that 100. If this person comes to this bank and says, give me my 100 rupees back, वो मैंने किसी और को loan में दे दिया है. I don't have that money. This system keeps on operating. Why? Because not everyone will demand this deposit at the same time. This system works only because not everybody is going to demand the money at the same time. And if they demand the money at the same time, this is called as a bank run, where everyone feels the bank is not safe. They run towards the bank does not have that money. This is failure of a bank. Banks in the economy work on a fractional reserve system where whatever deposits they get, they only have to keep a fraction as reserve. Rest they can give out on loans. This bank depositing further, it will create a total money supply of 1000, where money multiplier then becomes 1 upon your reserve ratio. Is this clear? How money is being created? ये fractional है, इसलिए कुछ reserve रख के बाकी लोन है. अगर मेरा fraction reserve I make it 0, then when I can have complete, is it clear? Multiplier will increase 1 upon reserve ratio. Infinite हो जाएगा money supply. Is this clear how bank is creating money? Now this money multiplier, that means you had original 100, you had original base. This got converted into 1000 because of the banks. Why? Bank 1 received this 100, gave loan of 90, and kept reserve of 10. That means start हो गया 100 plus 90. This 90 goes to another bank. Loan is 81, reserve is 9. This will keep on continuing. This will become 1000. That means this multiplier is dependent on two factors. Two factors on which it will depend. What is reserve deposit ratio? Deposit ratio. There are two things. Forget what ratios are. There are two things on which it will depend. One, how many people come to the bank? If this person is coming to the bank, then only money gets created. If this person saves in, that means multiplier will not be significant. If I do not include them in the financial inclusion process, if there is no banking services available to them, they will not come to the bank. That means one is behavior of the public. कि public bank में आती है या कहीं और जाती है. One factor is behavior of the public, and the second factor is behavior of the bank. Why? One is, this is reserve which 10% they have been asked to do. RBI has said you have to keep 10% reserve. What if I keep excess reserve? I don't think the situation is conducive enough to make more loans. 10% तो मेरे को RBI ने बोला है, मैं 10 और रखना चाहता हूं. I will keep 10 more. So I only have 80 to give them. So the money multiplier here is depending on what two factors? Behavior of public and behavior of banks. Now to understand the behavior of public, this behavior of public can be understood from one factor which is called as the currency deposit ratio. This is something I can observe. This currency deposit ratio or CDR is how much of the people are holding the money in currency and how much they are holding in demand deposits with bank. If my currency deposit ratio I come to know is quite high, what does it tell about the behavior of the public? एक ये ratio मैंने observe की कितना currency है और कितना demand deposits है बैंक में. If this ratio is high, what does it tell me about the behavior of the public? They are holding money, they are not going with the banks. That means if CDR is high, what is the multiplier going to be, high or low? So this can give me an idea on what the multiplier will be studying the behavior of public. And if the currency held is low, that means more is in the banks. The multiplier will be high. Is this clear? ये observe है factor. I can change the behavior through various things. उसी हिसाब से CDR change हो जाएगा. For example, I give them better interest rate on banks. I can change a lot of behavior. That is different thing. ये सिर्फ observe कर रहा हूँ behavior क्या है जिससे multiplier पता चल जाएगा. Second is behavior of banks. Now behavior of banks will depend on something called the reserve deposit ratio. Not depend on, but it will tell me what the behavior is. Reserve deposit ratio is how much the banks have to keep as reserves as a percentage of their total deposits. If reserve deposit ratio is high, it can be high, one, because the RBI has asked me to do it, or I am doing it on my own. If the reserve deposit ratio is high, if RDR is high, what does it tell me about the banks? They're not willing to lend. That means the multiplier is going to be. So I can know the money multiplier in the economy by observing the behavior of the public and observing the behavior of the banks. How do I observe this behavior? I measure CDR and I measure RDR. If the banks are keeping more reserves as a percentage of the deposits, they are creating less money. If public is coming less to the bank, they are keeping more currency with themselves, they are now having less money. Multiplier will be less. Multiplier is how much is your base expanding because of the money creation of banks. Your base was small, I expanded it to large figure. ये कैसे बड़ा बना? This is because of multiplier. With a small base, I created a huge money supply because of the multiplier effect. Why the multiplier effect works? Because of fractional reserve system. फुल रिजर्व सिस्टम होगा, बैंक लोन नहीं दे पाएगा, then it is only a guardian of your money, it's not giving loans. This is the concept of money multiplier. 100 plus 90 plus so on will give me 1000. So my money supply in any time is multiplied times the base. Will depend on two factors. One, whether this public is coming to the bank or not, and the other factor, banks, whether they are keeping reserves or not. कुछ statutory reserves हैं जो RBI ने बोला है, CRR, SLR, whatever, कुछ वो खुद रख सकते हैं, excess reserve. So this will determined by RDR and public will be determined by CDR. Is this clear? What is the concept of money multiplier? Depends on only two factors. The NCERT has drawn a numerical relation here. You don't have to go into that detail. ये इन सब दोनों से they will show how multiplier is 1 plus CDR upon CDR plus RDR. You don't have to go into those relations. You only have to understand how these two factors change. क्यों change होंगे और उससे multiplier कैसे change होगा. This is the only basic you have to know. Don't go into the numerical explanations given by the NCERT. Just understand what is happening. Read the chapter on money today. You'll understand all what is demand, what is supply, and what is money multiplier, how banks create money. The reason for banks creating money is the fractional reserve system. Full reserve hota, it's a guardian of your money. It can't give out loans. It is giving out loans means 190 exist in the system at the same point. Not everybody is demanding the deposits back. This is why the bank is safe. Is this clear? This is why you'll understand then why RBI ka regulation is required. Because now bank run is a situation where one fault means people lose confidence. People lose confidence, everybody runs to the bank, loss se loss बढ़ता जाएगा. This is why it is also called as a doom loop. One negative step further accentuates the negativity, further feeds the loop. तो अगर कुछ गड़बड़ की बैंक ने, people will lose confidence, everybody will keep running. More people come running, bank doesn't have that money. तो एक loss से दूसरा loss, it keeps on. This is why RBI acts as the lender of last resort. They're going to protect you. Because if bank run happens, this is the end of the bank. Is this clear? What is money multiplier? How with a small base we can create more money supply? And write down this, money multiplier. कैसे? नहीं टोटल टोटल का आपको ये रखना है. टोटल डिपॉजिट्स का एक आपका रिजर्व होगा, नेट टाइम एंड डिमांड लायबिलिटी, व्हाट दे रेफर टू एज आरबीआई सेज नेट टाइम एंड डिमांड लायबिलिटी. तो टाइम एंड डिमांड लायबिलिटी दोनों, बैंक की लायबिलिटी क्या है? डिपॉजिट्स. सो डिपॉजिट्स की टोटल की परसेंटेज आपको रखना है. 4% is CRR, SLR. I'll discuss all those also. Basic concept of reserve is clear. Head on money multiplier. First, right, the monetary base or the high powered money. This is H. H क्या है? The monetary base or the high powered money is the total money issued by the government and the RBI. A part of this is currency in circulation. A part of this is currency in circulation. And another part is held by the banks as reserves with the RBI. The part is the reserves of banks held by the RBI. See, this currency in circulation, this is completely, this is banks or banks, sometimes it is also mentioned as banks deposits with the RBI. This currency in circulation is different from currency in public. जो M1 में हमने we discussed currency with public. This is slightly broader. because it will also consider currency with public, plus there is certain money which is called as the vault cash of the banks. हमने banks के पैसे include नहीं किए थे यहाँ पे. Plus if the banks are holding deposits with each other, this is the total currency in circulation. Currency with public is different from currency in circulation because currency with public was only with the users. It was not the bank's money. Apart from that, banks also have their own vault cash which they can keep and interbank deposits. एक बैंक दूसरे बैंक में deposits जो रख रहा है. All of this was not included in currency in public. So currency in circulation is currency with the public plus vault cash and interbank deposits. And reserves is the bank's deposit with RBI. This is the monetary base. This is the total money which RBI has printed. Currency in circulation plus bank's reserves. Is this clear? What is the monetary base? This monetary base will be multiplied and we'll get the... Is this clear? Write down this. Monetary base is clear? In the next line, right? Banks work on a fractional reserve system. Banks work on a fractional reserve system where they have to keep a percentage of their total deposits as a reserve, and the rest can be given as a loan. In the next one, right? The money multiplier therefore represents the constant which shows the rate of change of money supply. The constant which shows the rate of change of money supply due to the changes in high-powered money or monetary base. Due to the changes in the high-powered money or the monetary base. That means money supply is so with the change in this, how will this change is dependent by this constant. ये constant बता रहा है कि कैसे money supply change होगी when this will change. Is this clear? It's a constant which tells us how money supply changes with the change in monetary base. How much will this change will depend on this. How much will this change impact this will depend on multiplier. Is it clear? It's multiplier times base. The money multiplier depends on two factors. The money multiplier depends on two factors. The money multiplier depends on two factors. First, preference of the public to hold currency. Preference of the public to hold currency relative to the deposits in banks, relative to deposits in banks. This is represented by the currency deposit ratio. This is represented by the currency deposit ratio, which is the ratio of currency held as a percentage of deposits. This is represented by the currency deposit ratio, which is the ratio of currency held by the public to the deposits in the bank. Is this clear? What is CDR? This shows me the preference of people. अगर currency high है, CDR high होगी. I come to know the preference. The second is the preference of the banks. Preference of banks to hold reserves in excess of what is mandated by the RBI. In excess of what is mandated by the RBI. It can be represented through reserve deposit ratio. It is represented or can be represented through reserve deposit ratio. That is ratio of the reserves held by the bank, represented by the reserve deposit ratio, which is the ratio of reserves held by the banks to the deposits in the bank. Reserves upon deposits. Is this clear? What is CDR? What is RDR? This reserve ratio, this reserves include both statutory reserves, that is which the RBI has told you to do, plus excess upon the deposits. That means RDR can change because of two things. If the RBI asks you, the RDR can change because if the RBI will ask you to do it or you are doing it, or both is happening at the same time. This includes both statutory reserves and the excess reserves which you are holding. So behavior of the banks is understood through RDR, behavior of the public is understood through CDR. Are the concepts of demand, supply and multiplier clear? You just have to revise, these are new terms, that's it. Read the NCERT along with the chapter, you'll not have any doubts. If you have doubts, we have another class also. Write down a question. I don't know. None of the above दे दो, option वही बात है. You don't have this option of don't know. If an individual withdraws, this is a previous year question. When individual withdraws 10,000 from demand deposit, you withdraw 10,000 in this, what will happen to the money supply? Decrease. Why? Why decrease? Why no change? You have to tell the reason also. Let me check the question is the same or not. If you withdraw in from at your bank, the immediate impact on aggregate money supply will be what is? Increase, decrease or no change? These are the three options. Increase. Wait, one by one. If the money is taken out from the bank deposit, money supply, let me check M1. M1 है तो सब में M1 तो है. M1 is what? Currency plus. तो डिमांड डिपॉजिट से 10,000 निकाल के करेंसी बन गया. नो चेंज. Why no change? This is clear? No change. Wait, the answer is not no change. Because I have omitted some words from the question. M1 is this. This is one explanation is clear. Now if money to the bank, अब मैंने बैंक से 10,000 निकाल लिए हैं, दैट मीन्स इस 10,000 के बैंक और लोन नहीं दे सकता है, राइट? मल्टीप्लायर विल फॉल, मनी सप्लाई विल, देन व्हाट इज द आंसर? नहीं नहीं, ये इसी वर्ड में बताओ, आई हैव गिवन यू द टू, सारे वर्ड यही हैं, तो आंसर क्या है? आई विल टेल यू व्हाट यूपीएससी आंसर वाज. यूपीएससी आंसर वाज नो चेंज. A lot of people have learned no change. क्वेश्चन लिखने से पहले नो चेंज बोल दिया था. This is why I omitted the word. Now the no change is not the answer. Decrease or increase? This will happen. Why? Because you can't make this. UPSC question was what happens to the aggregate money supply immediately. Immediately nothing is changing. But with a period of time, bank does not have the 10,000 to make the new loan. But for now, the money supply, that is currency or demand deposits, remain the same. The moment time passes, that means वो उस 10,000 का नया लोन नहीं हो सकता क्योंकि वो 10,000 अब नहीं है. But immediately you are not going to have any change. Only with the period of time bank realizes 10,000 कम है. Only with the period of time money supply will contract. But immediately nothing will happen because currency and demand deposits M1 will remain the same. Is this clear? Only with the period of time I will realize that I cannot create more money. This will happen with a period of time. Why? Because this 10,000, see how not immediately with a period of time. Now what was happening here? This happened, what is the date today? 23 को the withdrawal happened right now. So the money supply on 23 is what? Currency plus demand deposits. It remains the same. 1 week later, say 20 or 1 month later, 23rd 9, that means whatever the bank had money, it has less of 10,000. That means 10,000 के लोन नहीं बने हैं. तो money supply this and this would be different. Money supply today and money supply 1 month later, will it be less? But this is going to happen in a period of time जब उसको समझ आएगा कि लोन नहीं दे सकते. But आज की money supply, immediate money supply, is it changing? Is it clear? The question was easy because question ने increase decrease बोला था, increase by 10,000, decrease by 10,000 और increase by more than 10,000. So you know same level का तो increase हो भी नहीं सकता. There has to be a multiplier. So the question was easy. Immediate was the keyword where the answer was no change. Is it clear? Just revise these terms. We'll discuss further monetary policy RBI next class. Which class NCERT should we read? कौन सी class है ये? Class number 27. Read the society NCERT. Read M.N. Srinivas. You'll understand.